This right here is my favorite MIDI controller. It's the CME XKEY Air. I use this thing almost every time I make music, and it's been on my desk for about a year. Back when we were able to go out and be about, it was something that I took with me all the time. But in this video, I want to take a second look at the XKEY Air after having had it for a year and see if I still stand by my statement that it's the best MIDI controller for iPad producers. What is up, creatives? I'm Jahrell, your music technologist, here to help you master the tech you need to make music freely. I make weekly tip and tutorial videos as well as gear reviews just like this one on all things music production. If you want to see more content like that, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get this out of the way. Yes, I do think the XKEY Air is still the best MIDI controller for iPad producers. Now I know that can be something that is subjective. There's a lot of MIDI controllers out there with a lot of function, but it really comes down to what you value in a MIDI controller. This one's strong points are what we're gonna get into right now. So first things first is just how thin it is. It's a very, very slim MIDI controller. It fits easily in a bag. And something I've found myself doing a lot is if I want to produce and make music in the living room, for example, I'll throw my iPad on my Magic Keyboard case, and you can lay the XKEY Air right on top of the Magic Keyboard without accidentally pressing any buttons or anything. It's the perfect setup for when we're able to be mobile. We can go into like coffee shops or whatever, slap down the iPad on that Magic Keyboard case, throw the XKEY Air on top, and you're good to go. So the first strong suit is definitely portability. Next up is the feel of the keyboard. So it has kind of a hybrid between piano keys and like typing keyboard keys. It has a very clicky feel that is surprisingly satisfying. As someone that's played on, regular pianos a lot, these keys don't feel strange to me. Now, I am by no stretch a proficient pianist. I can lay down some chords, but I'm not somebody that's a stranger to the piano keyboard, and this still feels really good to me. On top of that, the sensitivity of the keys is really good. It picks up pressure sensitivity really well, so. One thing to note is the clickety-clackety of the keys can get a little annoying from time to time. Here's what that sounds like with the key noise. Another thing to consider with a controller like this is how's the battery life? For me, it's been excellent. I can make it several days on one charge, sometimes weeks. And I mentioned this in my XKEY Plus app video. You can set the auto sleep on this keyboard to whatever interval you want. By default, it comes at a 5-minute auto sleep, which definitely conserves battery, but you can change that, and I've changed it to a 30-minute auto sleep. So if I haven't been using this keyboard for 30 minutes, it'll go to sleep and that'll save battery. It charges via micro USB, which is one of the major things I wish they would change. I'm team USB-C all the things. So in the next model, that would be dope to see a USB-C port on the side. So the next strong suit for the XKEY Air is functionality. Now, this can be kind of a toss-up. Obviously, since the XKEY Air is so slim, it doesn't have all of the bells and whistles, all the buttons that a producer might need on the regular. But it does have a lot of dope settings built in. So we're gonna talk about those. Over here on the left, you've got your classic octave up, octave down, so. Then you've got your modulation button. And you've got your pitch buttons instead of wheels. So you've got the up and the down. And then you've got a sustain button. So you might have noticed for the sustain button, I was able to just press it and not hold it and still get the sustain to stay on. That is a setting that I adjusted in the XKEY Plus app. If you're an XKEY Air owner and you haven't downloaded that app, go download it now. Also, you can check out my video about the XKEY Plus app, going in depth with that, and I'll link that up here in the card as well as down in the description. But the XKEY Plus app offers a lot of functionality, such as this. By default, the sustain button, you have to press it and hold it while you're playing, which is kind of annoying because it leaves you with just one hand. But you can set in the XKEY Plus app if you want the sustain to just trigger on and stay on until you've turned it off by pressing it again. Now that does bring me to one of the shortcomings of the XKEY Air. Probably the one feature that people will miss the most is it does not support an input for a sustain pedal. As you can see, this thing is super thin. There's no room for a sustain pedal port. Now, this is something I think that if CME comes back at this again, they could make this portion right here maybe just a tiny bit thicker and have enough room for that port, and that would be much appreciated. But to be honest, most of the time when I'm on the road and I'm using a 25 key MIDI controller, I'm not playing super large expressive chords where I would need to go up and down the octaves with a sustain pedal on. That's something I would reserve for a bigger MIDI controller like this one back here in the back. But if you're someone that has more than one MIDI keyboard for your iPad, I have a hack for you to be able to use a sustain pedal with your XKEY Air. So all you got to do is make sure you have both MIDI keyboards, the XKEY Air, as well as whatever wired MIDI keyboard you're using connected to your iPad. And then you can connect a sustain pedal to the other MIDI keyboard. And I have that sustain pedal under my desk, and I'm using it to play my XKEY Air with a sustain from my other keyboard. It can be super convenient if I don't want to have to go over and play the big piano, or if I just want to be right here in front of my iPad. So I know it's less than ideal to not have a sustain pedal on your keyboard, and it's one of the shortcomings for sure, but there's a hack to help you out. Now, to the reason I feel like the XKEY Air is the best MIDI controller for iPad producers, this is it right here. It's light and compact. Just like the iPad, it's something that's super thin and super portable and makes making music anywhere super convenient. Also, just fits the general aesthetic. If you have a silver iPad Air, this is going to match really well. If you have a space gray one like I do, obviously the finish doesn't match. But they're both super slim and sleek and visually pleasing. The next thing is that it's a Bluetooth MIDI controller. That is a huge convenience in itself. It doesn't matter where I am in my studio, I can play this, and I've got audio. I can use this while having my full-on desk setup, the whole rig, the whole nine, or I can literally just take my iPad and this, and I'm good to go. A lot of MIDI controllers are big and boxy, even the 25 keys, to be honest, and it doesn't make for a smooth experience when trying to produce anywhere at any time. So if you're interested in picking up an XKEY Air, I will definitely leave links down in the description. Right now on Amazon, the 25 key XKEY Air is going for $199, but here's a huge word of advice. When you're going to Amazon to get your MIDI controller, make sure you don't get the wrong one. It can be confusing. There are CME XKEYs on there that are not the XKEY Air, and they're wired MIDI controllers and they're not Bluetooth. They may be cheaper, but they don't have that Bluetooth functionality. So if you really want a Bluetooth keyboard, you can pick this one up for $199. If you want something that looks exactly like this and plays the same but is just wired and not Bluetooth, you can definitely pick up the regular XKEY for much cheaper. I believe it's about $114 right now, and I'll leave links for that down in the description as well. Question of the day: what's your go-to MIDI controller for you producers out there? If you produce on the desktop or you produce on an iPad, I want to know. Drop your favorite MIDI controller down in the comments section. That is it, creatives. Until next time, go make something dope, and I'll see you in the next video.